Kia ora koutou katoa, nau mai hara mai ki te ao Hākinakina, your sports show, right here on your Tribal Pulse, te kore mako o Taranaki, 94.8 FM and 98.4 FM. Well, she is a proud Māori athlete who started out carving up the boys at school before being stopped from playing with them. She went on to play provincial rugby for Manawatū, counties Manukau and Taranaki. She also represented Queensland. Yes, that's right. Come on up the Blues, but she went for Queensland and Rugby League and played for the Burleigh Bears in 2020. Alongside representing New Zealand Māori and supporting the Taranaki Whānui Māori Rugby League tournament over many years. And she now coaches the Tukapa Women's team. No mai hara mai, Aleasha Brider. Kia ora, how are we?
Yeah, good. Kia ora, cuz. Thank you for that. Thank you for the slight introduction.
Hey, winding back the clock there. Back the clock.
Definitely.
Hey, cool. Good to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to catching up. But before we get started, ko wai koe, no he koe, just a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Yes. So, yeah, kia ora everyone that's going to be watching this. So my kupu Māori isn't the greatest, so I'll kōrero and Pākehā. So I'm born and bred in Taranaki. My whānau, mainly from Waitara, New Plymouth, down to Hāwara, all around the coast also, but quite a big whānau. But, yeah, spent most of my childhood here in New Plymouth.
Awesome. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, carving up the boys. Now, what was it like back then, carving up the boys? Obviously, you're probably at the time the best girls player in the province. So you're carving up the boys at school and until you were stopped from actually playing with them. You know, what did those early experiences kind of teach you about resilience and belonging in sport?
I'd say I was very lucky. I first started off at Spotswood United. It's our family club, also your family club too, Spotty, born and bred. So I played school grade through there. I played at West Town. I actually got, other than my family playing rugby, but I got into rugby because I was being bullied quite a lot. And one of my he was a caretaker at West Town Primary at the time, and he said, look, come play rugby. You're fast, you're naturally aggressive. Come have a play. We know you're playing at Spotswood, So I just had a really good group of people around me when I was younger. Didn't have the best upbringing, but sports really helped me cope and deal with my home environments.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
When that happened, when you got to an age where you were no longer able to play with the boys, what kind of kept you in the game and who helped you kind of find the next pathway? What was that time?
Like I said, I had some coaches, like even through primary, I had some really good coaches. A beautiful lady named Julie Kirkby was really supportive, and she was our coach. So I was fortunate enough to have a female rugby coach for quite a little period of my upbringing. So, there wasn't many of them around. She was very encouraging for me, and I'm really grateful to have someone like her amongst me because, being the only girl, I was a target. But my resilience really come through me, like it was a safety net for myself, Unless I was at home, I wasn't getting in trouble and I was doing something that I loved and I was, actually getting better at. When I come to high school, it was different. It's not that I couldn't handle the boys. I felt some egos were a bit strained playing against a female and you got a teenage boy who's, getting carved by a woman. Yeah.
I definitely remember seeing a bit of that. The boys going, what's going on here? But hey, obviously you kicked on after that. Looking back on your early provincial days in Manawatū, I think it might have been around 2009, 2011, somewhere around there. What do you remember about like breaking into that environment and learning your craft? It must have been so awesome for you, being such a rugby enthusiast as a kid to now step in and play at the highest level in New Zealand.
I was actually fortunate. I went down to a sevens tournament at Linton Army, and we took a random Spotswood United women's team. The players like Lee Lawrence and that all come down. We all had game, and I actually got spotted there. I was about 14 at the time, and the coaches actually come up and were like, "Where are you from? We'd really like you to come and play." I think I scored quite a bit of points in it, so it caught the eye. And then so they spoke to my parents because they had come down at the time, my stepdad and my mum, and said, look, we'd really like her to come and trial for the Manawatū women's team. And I was 15 when that was happening. I just turned, and then Salika, I was fortunate, like Salika Winiata was there also. So other young female athletes were also in the women's game. So it did make me feel comfortable. But then I had someone like Farah Palmer, who I idolised in the women's game. She was our captain. So I did get a good thing. I just had really good coaches from there. Calvin Tantrum, and, he was a big push. And they come to the point where they were like, we understand you're at school. If you can come to these trainings. And I committed to them. I was driving myself at 15, 16. Probably shouldn't have been, but by myself, but I was committed. And that's what I had to do to play rugby at the time, because when I got stopped from playing boys, I had no other options.
Wow, what a journey, man. What a journey. Well, you did really well. You represented Manawatū for a few years, and then you later suited up for counties Manukau and Taranaki. How did those teams shape your game, and what stands out for you, from that Farah Palmer Cup run, including, I think you played at Yarrow Stadium. You would have played at Yarrow Stadium a few times?
Yes. Yeah. I would say it opened up my eyes to the different treatment from the regions. Manawatū, very supportive. They were, paying travel expenses for me. Counties Manukau, very another supportive. But it was, we had a lot of really strong wahine in that group as well. They had, just before I made it, they also had like Portia Woodman and Renee Whitcliffe, and a really good leadership role inside of the counties team from other great experienced women. Then coming down to Taranaki, it showed the lack of support from the union in the women's game, and it comes across when you've experienced that sort of stuff, like it's a second thought, if you get what I mean, which is very unfortunate, because I always wanted to finish in the amber and black that's where I always wanted to finish, but it was just a good learning curve, and it showed the differences also in club footy and to the rep stages, big, and it showed by performances, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, no small feat representing all three of those provinces. But then you moved into another game, rugby league, and we're going to talk about that soon, Whānui. So make sure to stay tuned. We'll be back shortly after this short break. Kia ora koutou whānau, welcome back to Te Ao Hākinakina. We're here with Aleasha Brider talking about her amazing journey in rugby union and now on to rugby league. So I think in 2014 you represented Queensland, is that right, in an interstate match, and then you went on to play for the Burleigh Bears as well. How did league challenge you differently from union, and what did you take back from, back to union after playing league?
I was fortunate. We did have a small comp here in New Zealand, with Maris and Waitara. So I did have a little dabble with that, and our whānau being, great league players themselves. I actually was one of the originals that helped started Burleigh Bears years before. Yeah, so I think it was about 2010-ish we started Burleigh Bears. Another great friend of mine, Karina Brown, another league phenomenal player, Tani Norris, and myself. So I'm like the third registered player to create Help Burleigh, and we started from there. Had a great coach, Roy Leone, but he was a great push for Women's League also. I was fortunate enough to play for Burleigh for a couple of years, and then I got selected for Southeast Queensland, which is another fantastic team, and then ended up being selected for Queensland in the little Origin series that they had also.
Wow, that's a pretty mean feat there, representing Queensland, even though I'm a Blues supporter, but well done there. Queensland. Well done, Aleasha. Hey, now, wearing the koru, wearing the fern on your chest, what did that mean to you and your whānau to represent New Zealand Māori, and how has that experience kind of shaped your identity and leadership on and off the field?
It actually meant more to me than any jersey that I actually have worn. it was a first for my family, also for me to make that in the, you know, in the New Zealand Māori women's environment. I was fortunate enough to make that team originally back in 2006, I think, before I had my daughter. And then obviously again when we did the Indigenous tournament. But Māori Rugby League means a lot to me for our culture. It proves how strong we are and resilient, not just off the field but on the field. You know, a lot of us girls, we just get together and just play, and half the girls have never played before. You know, it's just about bringing our whānui together and our friends together and banging it out against each other, I suppose. But, you know, I've been in the Black Ferns environment. I've been in the Kiwi Ferns environment when, you know, in the nines. But the Māoris was different. It just you can't, if, you know, not being stink, but anyone could wear one of those jerseys, those other jerseys, but only Māori can wear a New Zealand Māori one. Love it. Yeah.
What an accomplishment. What an accomplishment. Well, you've accomplished a lot, but I know something that does mean a lot to you as well as actually being at home with your whānau and your friends under your maunga, playing in the Taranaki Whānui Māori Rugby League tournament. What makes this kaupapa so special to you, and what impact do you see it having on our kōrero, on our wahine and the community in Taranaki?
I look at it as I'm grateful for it because, you know, someone like myself who had to travel just to play, you know, I was traveling to Auckland, traveling to Palmerston, you know, for 80 minutes of footy, to be able to have it in your own back door and seeing that, you know, from when we had nothing to now it's thriving and, you know, girls getting out there and it not being so. It's a boys' sport. You can't play. Girls are smashing it just as much as the boys. And, you know, even some of the boys said to me, at least you could probably jam in the men's still. But, you know, because most of them I've played with, yeah, I enjoy seeing it. The fact that I can see like nieces and nephews and I can, my nieces, you know, encouraging them to play sports. My daughters aren't so much into rugby league and I feel like I put them off on that because I had them involved in so much. And then they're like, nah, mum, you know, that's your thing. But it's beautiful to see the growth because when you have nothing and now finally see something, it's really good. And having people like yourself doing your stars development programs and giving opportunities to girls and boys who may not have had that opportunity prior, you know, like I said, I had to travel to play 80 minutes of rugby. So when I was traveling to Auckland, go up on a Friday, play rugby on a Saturday, league on a Sunday and come home. So, you know, it's a mission.
I take my hat off to you wahine that have really pushed the game. And I suppose just looking at where the game is now in rugby union and rugby league and the opportunities it brings is just huge for our wahine. And speaking of opportunities, you've just recently been announced the Tukapa women's coach. I'm really excited to hear about, you know, your plans in this space and this role. But what values and on-field habits are you kind of most focused on building, and how do you think your playing experience will inform your approach in terms of coaching?
One thing I must say is that Tukapa have come into the women's game recently, and they are so supportive of the woman in that role. So when I went to my interview with them about becoming, you know, putting my name forward to be coaching, I originally went to be helping as you know, with the other coaches, either as a backs coach or an assistant coach or some role, one or another, you know. So when they said, "Oh, actually, we've got this role that we're looking at you back," I was just like, you know what? Yes, I could actually do this. As so daunting it is with the experience that I've had, the levels that I've played at, and I can see where we're lacking in women's rugby here. But it's great that Tukapa have come on board, and they will treat us like Prem players, but we also have to give back to the club as Prem players. So me coming into this role, I've made it clear to the girls that if we want to be treated like Prems, we've got to train and commit to the club as Prems. And that was a huge difference that I found playing in counties and playing in Manawatū. That was very pushed. You want to be treated like a Prems, you have to play like a Prems. And I find in Taranaki, we do take it for granted here. Playing rugby, so it's demand and no commitment for that premier title, if you get what I mean. So it's just taking it a little bit more professional, and we've got the players, and if we've got clubs supporting it, there's no reason why that we shouldn't. I'm going to go into this role knowing it's going to be a learning curve for me, and I'm not going to do 100% right in it, but I'm going to learn from it. And with my experience amongst so many fantastic coaches, I can skip a lot of the learning curves as many beginner coaches do, if you understand what I mean, and implement a lot of things that I know are successful for rugby teams.
Love it. Well, it's an exciting time and looking forward to, it's not often I go for Tukapa, but because you're in the helm there, Aleasha, I'll go for the Tukapa Wahine this year.
Yeah, awesome, bro. Thank you.
Now, just lastly, for young wahine who might be facing or will face, barriers like you did when you were younger, what kind of practical advice and would you give, would you pass down to those young wahine wanting to crack it in footy?
Just keep going. And you're probably going to have more people tell you you're not going to make it than you do have the support. It's just the way it is, I've found. But if you are strong in the mind and it's something you're really passionate about and want to just keep going, there's going to be barriers. There's going to be hurdles that you're going to have to jump through. There's going to be late nights. There's going to be tired bodies and fatigue. But if it's something you really want to do, just stick at it. If you love it, just stick at it. But it also taught me resilience on life. Stuff that I went through as a child through my sports. I did have some backlash from some parents. I had a dad run over a bike and, all of this other stuff. And I didn't have a parent that could drive at the time. So it was all on me, but it was the resilience. So come through life. Now, when I do hit hard hurdles, it's not as impactful as it may have been if I hadn't already experienced the drive. So I'm a very driven person and I like to give things a go, but it taught me a lot about my resilience as a person.
Beautiful. There we have it, Whānui, embracing the challenge. Make sure you embrace the challenge out there. Well, Aleasha, your journey really shows your determination, your strength, and the heart you put into growing women's rugby and rugby league, from those early challenges right through to representing New Zealand Māori and now stepping up to coach the next generation. We wish you nothing but the very best on your next journey. And thanks for coming on the show.
Nah, thanks, Cuz. I really appreciate it. I was actually quite shocked when you were asked, but I'm grateful because, my one interview could help inspire the next black fern, or next kiwi fern, something. I want to inspire somebody some way, somehow. So thank you.
Thank you.